We've all had this before. Someone messages you saying that something is down, or even if it's just your family members that are trying to access something locally. And the annoying part is, once the user tells you that something is wrong, that's the first time you get to find out about it. So now you have to spring into action. Which part of your stack is currently experiencing problems? Is the site connector offline? Is the application unhealthy? Is maybe the machine completely down altogether? Is it just a networking issue? Or maybe it's just a user issue. That is what Pangolin alerts are meant to solve by giving you key insight into which areas of Pangolin are currently experiencing issues. So when you have to jump into action, you already know which areas you need to debug first. So in this video, I'll walk you through how to get it set up and what it looks like to actually receive a notification via one of the channels. Before we create an alert, it's important that we take a baseline of what Pangolin is already tracking for us. Within Pangolin, you deploy a connector within a site. And a site can be a customer network, a business network, or even your home network. Heading into the site section, you can see these uptime bars on the sites themselves. Green means it's 100% uptime for that day. Yellow or slash amber means that it has a partial degradation for that day, and red means it was completely offline for that day. The same idea applies to resources. In Pangolin, resources are the actual items that people will access via the sites. For resources, Pangolin can perform HTTP checks or even TCP checks depending on the type of resource. So rather just knowing if the site connector is degraded or failing, you can then also know if the resource behind the site is also unhealthy. Again, Pangolin will keep the history of the resource. So you can see within my resource, I have got one degraded day and the rest of the days are blank because I didn't configure the health check beforehand. And the new feature of Pangolin 118 is that we can do standalone health checks to hosts that are behind the site. That means they don't have to be configured as resources, so meaning users cannot access them, but you can still get their health check information. So now since we've got a baseline of understanding of what Pangolin is currently tracking, we can now turn those status changes into actionable alerts. Because you don't want to keep logging into the dashboard and checking everything manually, you want to be notified to where your actual team lives, which may be within Slack, Teams, or any other application. To create your first alert, we need to head into the alerting section, which is under management on the left hand side. If it's your first time coming into this section, you will have no rules set up and there should be a create rule button within the middle of the table. However, if you already have one set up, you can create a new rule by using the create rule button on the top right hand corner of the table. Once you hit the create new rule button, you'll be transformed into this new page which will show basically 3 to 4 steps to setting up the alert. The reason that I wanted to show the baseline earlier is because you need to get a general understanding of how the source option works. Clicking on the source dropdown, you will be presented with site, health check, and resource. The reason that health check and resource are two separate options within this menu is because in 118 we also introduced standalone health checks which can check things that are not tied to Pangolin. Once you have chosen which type of source you want, underneath the drop down menu allows you to specify whether you want all of them or just a specific ones. This is useful if you want an alert to go to the back-end engineering team and you want a different type to go to the front-end engineering team, for example. However, in my case, since I'm a single person, I'll just click all because I want all to come to me. The next step is to pick the type of trigger that you would want. Typically, in the drop-down menu, the first option covers all of the options. So, for example, if a resource changes in healthy or unhealthy direction, no matter what, this will fire. This allows you to create multiple different types of alert channels. So if you want all unhealthy statuses to go to a certain direction, you can then configure it in that way. For this example, I'm just going to pick both because I want both to end up in the same direction. The next thing is to pick an action that will happen once the trigger fires. We have many to choose from, but in this example, I'm just going to pick email as I'm signed up to Pangolin Cloud and it's quite easy for me to get emails. Once you've chosen which action you want to take, clicking on it and then clicking the add action button will show new options below the actions section. From this example, because we selected email, we can choose who will be the recipient when the alert fires. From within Pangolin, you can choose users or roles which the users are tied to. As well, you can specify additional email addresses which are not tied to Pangolin at all. For completionist sake, I will show you what will happen when you choose the webhook option. It will basically give you all the options to configure the HTTP request, and there is a templating section at the bottom if you need to create a custom template. I won't go too deep into the templating because it all depends on the provider and which sort of format they need. So just check their documentation and just conform to the rules on the body. So once you've got everything configured, you just need to name it in the top left hand corner. Give it something informative so when your future self comes back in here, you know what this alert is trying to do. As well, underneath the name option is a cooldown option. And what this is trying to do is stop you getting overloaded. So like, let's say if a resource goes healthy in quick succession, you don't want to overload yourself just for a meaningful alert. So I've now configured my first alert, which is just an email to all admins on the organization once a site status changes. Let's simulate what actually happens once a site goes down. I've logged into one of my machines and intentionally stopped one of the sites, so now the dashboard is reporting it as offline. If we now check over in my inbox, you can now see that we received an email from the Pangolin team informing me of when the site went down and a quick link to open the dashboard. And since that trigger was for both online and offline, when the site comes back up, I do receive an email which informs me of that change. Also, a quick tip, if you want to create these alerts a lot quicker, if you head into the resources page for public or private and edit the resource itself, head over to the general tab and you can quickly add an email alert from that page itself. And that is Pangolin Alerts. Instead of waiting for somebody to message you that something is broken, Pangolin can proactively alert you when things change. So whether you're managing a home lab or customer environments, alerts will give you a faster way to respond. If you want to try this out, log into Pangolin and set up your first alert today. I'll leave all relevant documentation within the description. Thank you for watching this video. If you can like for the YouTube algorithm, that will help us out massively. Subscribe to stay close to our content, and I'll see you in the next one.